afternoon, everyone. My name is Katherine Jan. I'm on the Georgetown MBA admissions team. Just to let you all know, this meeting is being recorded. I have the privilege of introducing David Vanderveer, the newly appointed Executive Director of the Psaros Center for Financial Markets at the McDonough School of Business. And so I'll kick it over to your team for this 1-hour webinar.
Thank you, Catherine. Really appreciate your doing this, and thank you to Lee and all of our speakers here. I just wanted to give a brief welcoming and thank you all for attending. I'm the new Executive Director of the Psaros Center on Financial Markets and Policy at the McDonough School of Business here at Georgetown University. And, you know, we're just very excited to be building up and building out our programs here at the intersection of where financial markets and policy meet. And we welcome you all to learn more about us as we do more programming. But I want to turn it over to Lee Pinkowitz, who is our Associate Director. And he's a phenomenal force in student engagement and also doing events such as this. So I want to welcome you all and turn it over to Lee. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Hi, everybody. I'm Lee. I also, there's a bunch of people here on the panel, but I want to introduce Anna Kormis, who is Assistant Director of the Psaros Center and makes sort of everything run. I thought what we would do is I just want to tell you a little bit about the center for a few minutes, and then really want to have a panel discussion with current students so that you as prospective students can get a sense of not just what the Psaros Center does, but really what is the day-to-day activities and what is it like to be in the MSB MBA program, whether it's full-time, or flex. So what I want to do first, though, I'm just going to share my screen here, right? And hopefully you're, no, there we go. Okay. Hopefully you're seeing my screen. Thanks, Catherine. Okay, so basically here, this is the Psaros Center is the Center for Financial Markets and Policy. It's housed inside MSB. Anna can, if you would drop the our URL in the chat, that would be great. My name is Lee Pinkowitz. I'm the Associate Director for Student Engagement, and my contact information is there. We can put that in the chat as well. What I wanted to just kind of explain really briefly, and I'm not going to take too much time because I know the discussion is probably more valuable, but in terms of what does the center do, because it is a center that really is at the heart of financial markets, financial policy, regulation, and we try to convene both academics, practitioners, regulators, lawmakers, and hopefully at times engage students in that process as well through a variety of our events. And so, the whole idea of the MBA program is really following the Jesuit values of men and women in service to others. And so the center really tries to live those values. In terms of what it really does, I think it's just better. I'm just going to show you this brief video, and hopefully you get a better sense of this. All right. Or I'm not. Okay. I will share the video in just a moment. Here's what I'm going to do while I try and get this up and running. Right, which is one of the things that the Psaros Center does is we host a variety of events, and that could be bringing in professional speakers. It could be bringing in practitioners. Some of that is student-centered in the context of education, right? And let's do this. Okay, hopefully this is going to work now. Let me show you the video. Come on. There we go.
The first time I understood the vision for the Psaros Center for Financial Markets and Policy was when my mentor, Dr. Reena Agrawal, came to me in the aftermath of the great financial crisis and explained that there was an enormous amount of proposed legislation that would have had enormous impact, not just on business finance, but rather on society.
I said Georgetown needs to step up to fill this leadership void, and Mike completely agreed, and he immediately provided seed capital to form the center.
I made the first $500,000 contribution to put the center in business, and I am in awe of the center's accomplishments over its first decade. 10 years ago was step one. This is now a major step two. My family's making this $11 million transformational gift to see the Psaros Center for Financial Markets and Policy manifest itself and reach its true potential. And hopefully I will spend the next decades working with Dr. Agrawal and the professional staff that we're going to hire here at the center, speaking the truth and speaking objectively about financial markets and policy.
And now, with this new gift from the Psaros family, we are prepared to realize the full impact of the Psaros Center as the preeminent center on markets and policies through expanded opportunities for research and scholarship, in global convenings and lectures that take advantage of our location here in Washington and the many strengths of our university.
The wonder of the Psaros Center for Financial Markets and Policy is that we can actually embrace a very complex future in finance. We're going to be able to share our understanding with business and politicians and policymakers, and we're going to be able to make a big difference to ourselves and to the world.
At Georgetown, we can do deep research. We have extraordinary faculty that we pull in from all parts of Georgetown who provide thought leadership. We are brokers between policymakers and practitioners, and our recommendations are driven by research. That is the role that the center plays. Students play a huge part at the center in terms of doing research, addressing the biggest issues, and so students have a great opportunity. What the Psaros family is providing us now, it really is going to help transform what we are doing at the center, but more broadly, Georgetown's reputation, McDonough's reputation, and the impact that we can have.
This is a perpetual endowment. This center will be here when we are not here anymore.
Mike brings so much passion and energy to this endeavor, and I can't wait to see what we can do together.
We are going to be the convener to make this country better and to make the world better. That's why the Psaros Center matters.
Okay, so I managed to get that to work. What I wanted to kind of show you just briefly is a couple of the things that we have done, and I've tried to gear it a little bit towards what students have been able to do, and then I'll have them kind of chime in a little bit. But the major event that we host each year, at least on the convening side, is the Financial Market Quality Conference. This was hosted just a few weeks ago. These are some of the keynote speakers: the CFTC chair, Benham, SEC chair, Gensler, right? We had a couple of senators who was working on crypto legislation, David Schwimmer, CEO of the London Stock Exchange Group. And so because we're in DC, because the Psaros Center has connections across both finance and policy, we're able to bring in these types of powerhouses. I almost forgot Robert Cook, right, who's the president and CEO of FINRA. And we had a whole bunch of panels that I thought was really interesting. In terms of student engagement, because my role is really Associate Director of Student Engagement, we've had a variety of things. I just want to point out a couple of. We have had a series of interviews, actually, it's women leaders in finance and business, where we actually had students interview these very successful, very powerful women in finance. And it was a combination of an MBA student and undergrads doing the interview. we recently hosted a midterms and markets panel, which was actually on election day, to discuss what impact the elections might have on the financial markets. It was joint with Georgetown Institute of Politics, and one of our students actually, there's Sanjay, is one of our students, was actually the moderator of this panel, as well as there being students to ask questions. And then in a more practical training way, we initiated something called the Step Up series last year, which was bringing in finance practitioners in order to do something co-curricular. So we had a whole series which was equity analysts, and so it was basically six sessions where different equity analysts would come in and describe different parts of their job and parts of the process. And then we had a second seminar series, which was portfolio managers who came in. So those are really just a couple of the things that we've been doing that hopefully is complementary to the experience if you choose to come to Georgetown as a student. Again, we've got, I will put my contact information in the chat so that you will have it, but I'm going to stop sharing now. And what I want to do, it was very kind enough to have, or it was very kind of some of our students to sort of join. I'm going to just call on each of them. And guys, as we said, maybe just a couple minutes of sort of your background, 2-minute speech and who you are, your background, where you're coming from, and then we'll try and have some discussion. And by the way, in the Q&A or in the chat, to those of you watching, if you have questions, please put them in. Will, I'm going to kick it over to you first and have you kick this off.
Sure thing. So by means of introduction, my name is Will. I'm a second-year full-time MBA student. I'll be graduating next summer. Before I came to McDonough, I was a portfolio manager at Bank of America for a number of years, and came here to keep my portfolio management skills sharp, but also get some business acumen, learn how some large clients for whom advisors manage capital actually run their companies, run their institutions. At the same time, I wanted to build a network outside of the Northeast where I'm from, get a little bit more visibility into some target markets that I was looking at. And that's been very valuable to me so far.
Thanks, Will. Natalia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Natalia. I'm originally from Canada, where I worked as a strategy analyst for an airline for 6 years. I'm pivoting now towards consulting. So not necessarily in the finance realm, but I am a leader of a student organization here where we have a lot of intersection with the Psaros Center. And that's really where we've seen the center really supports a lot of our members. That's the Graduate Women in Business, for those of you that are interested. And that's where the student interaction has been extremely helpful for us to be able to provide some of those opportunities for learning and other potential opportunities to our club members.
Thanks. Jack?
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, Jack here. I'm also second-year full-time student. Originally from India, I was working with the Bank of America in their investment banking division with the leverage finance group. Before I moved to the US, my main purpose was I wanted to work in a bigger market where I would have exposure to working on more exciting deals. And yeah, Georgetown has definitely helped. With regards to that, I also sit on the board of the Finance Club, and as part of our activities, we support the first-year students or newcoming students in their recruitment, not only with investment banking, but whatever career they're interested in, whether it's like private wealth management, private equity, asset management. So yeah, definitely feel free to reach out. I can drop my email in the chat if you guys are interested in any of that. Happy to help.
Thanks, Jack. And representing, they're not all full-time students, right? We have some of our flex students. Dan, over to you.
Hey everyone, I'm Dan Bishop. As Lee just mentioned, I'm in the Flex program of the MBA program, which means, while my title here says that I'll be done in 24, I've actually accelerated a bit. So I'll be done just after the second-year students that you just heard from. I'll be done next summer, and that's the beauty of the Flex program. I work full-time. I work at UBS out of New York City area. in capital management, which was formerly a stress testing initiative. I've done that for the past 4 years. And before that, I spent time at a startup and then in financial services audit. Georgetown's been great. I'm looking to make my way from some of the non-client facing parts of the bank to more of the front office. And Georgetown's been, a great stepping stone to do that. Alongside Will in the full-time program, who you just heard from, we manage the graduate investment fund, which has paid huge dividends for me and him and the rest of the club, getting to speak with folks that come through the center and just folks that we source organically through our alumni pool. It's been absolutely excellent so far. So happy to talk about that stuff as we get into things. Thanks.
Thanks, Dan. And so I want to kind of throw this open. Well, first, I guess I'll throw open to the full-time Will, Natalia, Jack. While the focus of this is really more sort of finance driven, do you have any sort of thoughts, advice, insights in terms of what the MSB program is like, what it's like being in the full-time MBA program? Some of the things you wish you had been told, if you could go tell you, right? Natalia, you look like you have something you'd like to say, so I will start with you.
It's definitely a whirlwind at first, and especially if you're coming from maybe potentially not the DC area where you have to move here from another city, state, country, wherever. You're not only like getting used to your physical environment, but also the environment of the MBA. And things are coming really fast, especially if you're recruiting for finance or consulting, everything starts very early. So it's really important to stay organized and have a clear goal in mind. There's going to be a lot of different opportunities that arise, but knowing, like, having a targeted goal in terms of what you want out of the experience and what your priorities are going to help you filter out some of those opportunities, because unfortunately you can't do it all, even though you're going to try to. And the number one tip that I got beforehand was to update your calendar. So to sync your calendar with every possible activity, opportunity, deadline, whatever, so that you can stay on top of things. Like, I've literally blocked things for homework due at this time, just so that I don't forget that I have an assignment due, or, coffee chat at this time. So definitely leverage your calendar and stay organized.
Jack, you were certainly talking about coming from, traveling to get here, but please.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of the points that Natalia also touched upon. One of the things that's most important is that you should know what you're getting into or what your goals are in terms of your career before you start your MBA program. Because once you come here, you really have to hit the ground running. And the finance recruiting especially starts like really early, and then it pretty much ends in like December. So you have to manage your academic workload along with the recruiting for finance or consulting, and you have to put in a lot of hours, do all these coffee chats. So it's really important that you have a clear path in mind before you come to business school. Otherwise, if you feel like exploring different things, which is like perfectly fine to do, you're gonna just like waste a little bit of your time doing that rather than actually making some progress. And apart from that, I moved from a different country as well. So there's always like a physical aspect of getting used to the weather, getting used to a new country. So yeah, it's important to keep all those things in mind.
Will, any thoughts? I mean, we don't know what the makeup is of the attendees, but people, coming from finance background to try and continue to do this, any advice or thoughts you have?
Yeah, absolutely. And generally speaking, when you come here, the first thing that you get access to is this incredible network. And first, it begins with your peers, your first-year students, and then it expands to recent graduates and alumni as you begin to look for an internship. And McDonough has a pretty robust fundamental finance curriculum. The one piece of advice I would give is to find a club that you can either associate with or take a leadership position in, because this will augment the things that you learn in your core classes. It will also help you stand out a little bit when it comes time for internship recruiting. It's an extra bullet point on your resume, and specifically if you're doing something related to the field that you're targeting, whether it's banking, asset management, research within that club, I think you're going to have a bit more to talk about with potential firms, with people hiring you, with an interview prep with second years, or with recent graduates, So it really will help, I think, bolster the foundation that you get with your classes here at MSB.
Thanks. Dan, I mean, you basically are doing two full-time jobs, right? You have the full-time job and then you take the course load. What, if anybody's looking to get into Flex, what should they be aware of?
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, the busiest couple of years of my life so far. So, be prepared for that. You're going to take a course load that's as heavy or as light as you want, and the timeline is rather up to you. So that's the good thing, right? If you want to, graduate on a 3 or 4 year timeline, you can do that. If you want to accelerate, you can do that. Managing your calendar is absolutely huge. As Natalia mentioned, I mean, that's something that I came in and I knew I had to do. And I did exactly that, and it's been manageable. It's definitely like managing 2 full-time jobs, but it's possible. I take, my classes at night and on the weekends when I can, and over breaks when I can. I'm here today, so it's not been too much for me. And I would, encourage anybody thinking about it to, give it some thought. Talk to me on the side if you'd like about it. But as a Flex student, the opportunity is really up to you. You get out of it what you put in. I was able to join clubs, as Will mentioned, and integrate with the full-time students as anybody else would. And that's been super rewarding. I know other members of the Flex program that don't get as involved, and they're still having a great experience at MSB and pivoting their careers accordingly. So I wouldn't say that there's any less opportunity. It's totally up to you. And again, just staying organized is really key.
Thanks, Dan. And, again, I recognize that we're competing against, or we're up against the World Cup. So you either have us on in the background, or probably you have the World Cup on in the background. But if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or Q&A. Thank you, Juan, Carlos. I very much appreciate this. We'll get to that in a second. But let me, while I kind of look at this, because you all sort of mentioned the clubs, and that was how we got in touch for the most part. With the exception of Will, I haven't had any of you in class, right? You want to talk a little bit about the sort of, call it the co-curricular, the extracurricular environment, whether it's the clubs, other things that they can do. And I guess since we're hosting this, anything about, like, what has the Psaros Center been able to do that has been helpful, or other centers? There's a lot of other centers on campus and in MSB. How has that helped supplement the curriculum, which anybody can kind of find online, right? Jack, I think you're kind of our finance club representative, so we'll go sort of general with you first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So as part of the finance club, we have the incoming first year students. So we have these training events where we partner with Breaking into Wall Street, Wall Street Prep, and they conduct their training sessions so as to prepare the students for that. And as second year students who have been successful in their recruiting for financial services career, we also take sessions for first year students to make sure their technical skills are on par. And there are also peer advisors, which is an official assigned school position. So you can find their appointments online. You can go to the website and then schedule sessions with them as to prepare you for your interviews.
Thanks, Jack. Hey, so Dan, I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but it's Juan Carlos. I apologize if that's not how it is. But asking about as future students contributing to the programs. So Dan, I think most people would think, well, as a Flex student, I really can't be involved in clubs, or I can't be involved in these types of programs. But you were intimately involved, or intricately involved with the Step Up program, especially we're talking about the portfolio manager. So if you wanted to give some insights into, I guess, extracurriculars from a Flex student perspective, and then based on Juan's question, either that or how Psaros has sort of helped on the GIF, the pitch competitions.
Sure. Yeah, happy to talk about that stuff. I think from a Flex perspective, it may be a common misconception that we can't get involved in clubs and et cetera, as the full-time students can. Not the case, right? You just need to pay attention to when those club registrations and things happen and get involved. And the program office does a good job of ensuring that the clubs, whether they're, full-time MBA oriented or MSF oriented or what have you, have their meetings at a time when even flex students can attend. So this is typically after the full-time students get done their classes during the day. I think the last class for them ends around 4:50 p.m. But before we start our night classes, which are at 6:30 p.m. So we're held to this kind of structure to allow, inclusivity of multiple programs. As for dealing with the Psaros Center, as Lee mentioned, last year we had a great step up series with industry practitioners, and as Will even touched on, it's great to get that practitioner perspective combined with some of the fundamental finance topics that you're learning in your core classes. I think the marriage there is huge when you think about going into a job interview and talking about not only the fundamentals, but what's happening in the market or the macro economy more broadly. I feel well equipped to do that, having sat through 6, 7, 8 practitioner conversations in addition to my course load. There has been no more rewarding experience than leading the Graduate Investment Fund. It is so easy to open doors that way, whether it's through an alumni that's been in the graduate fund or an alumni that works on Wall Street that recognizes the fund, the center, or Georgetown more broadly. I've had like a 90% hit rate on LinkedIn, just reaching out cold and having folks come speak with us or be willing to speak with us. So just keep that in mind. It's been an incredible network and an incredible experience so far. So thanks.
Yeah. And Will, even I think Psaros Center, we helped out last year with the pitch competition, but that then put you in touch with people that you used again this year for judges, right? So it essentially is more of an organic thing. If you wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that, how these events have kind of come about.
Absolutely. Yeah, first I'll just put another plug in for the Step Up series, which has been a big focal point for the club last year. I think we were probably, 50% or so of the grad attendees at those events for GIF. Hugely valuable. We've been able to speak with those presenters even after the fact. And yeah, last year's stock pitch competition was extremely well attended. We had a pretty all-star studded lineup of judges, many of whom were returned this year for our stock pitch competition. So just by working with the Psaros Center for this competition last fall, we've had these ongoing relationships with very influential people on campus that help us facilitate future events, facilitate future speaking engagements, and in some cases have also advised us on what we should do in regards to portfolio management, club structure. And these are also informal conversation opportunities that you can have with some of these people, these more senior members of the school, on career advice. I've asked a judge panelist, hey, what should I do with my options here? Who should I appeal to? What's the timeline going to be? Which firms should I focus on? Who should I not focus on? So these engagements that Psaros Center has helped with has really set off kind of a chain reaction of more interactions that I've had with people outside of formal events. And also, one of our senior members at GIF worked with Professor Agarwal, who's also a member of the Psaros Center, to do a very thorough study on ESG investing. And this has informed a huge component of our ESG strategy in the fund. And so just this access that you get to very senior faculty at the university is not only educational, but can guide the projects that you'll do within a club or on your own time, which is going to be hugely beneficial as you present some of your work during job interviews.
Thanks, Will. And Natalia, while GWIB is not necessarily a finance-directed club, right? It's very more broad. Just so people are aware that it's not just maybe networking that Psaros Center helps out with. If you wanted to kind of share some insights in terms of how we've collaborated.
Yeah, definitely. So like you mentioned, Graduate Women in Business is a broader club in that sense. It focuses on both professional, academic, social, community service. So there's a wide spectrum of different pillars that we focus on. But definitely we have some women and allies, male allies in the program that are finance inclined. And we set up a variety of different opportunities for them in order to pursue those inclinations. So specifically, we have an annual conference every year where it's our leadership conference, where we provide an opportunity for the students to network with alumni and professionals across different industries. And this year, the center was kind enough to directly support our finance panel and really help make our conference happen, and provide that opportunity for the students that are interested in finance to be able to interact with different professionals. So that was one of the key ways in which we interacted. But also at the start of the semester, I thought it was really great that you provided the opportunity for different club leaderships to get together to kind of interact and collaborate and understand what we're potentially doing that's crossing over with each other, like where like the synergies were kind of naturally lined up. And through that event, I was able to have like various conversations with different clubs to have cross collaborations. I think a lot of times the club leaders are kind of like blinders on, we're all doing our own thing, but we don't realize that a lot of times we can overlap and we can cross collaborate with different clubs. So even with Will, I think Will provided some contacts for us to be able to speak to some professionals to get them to come speak with us. So just small things like that add huge value that we wouldn't necessarily have the opportunity to do without some of the events and some of the doors that the center has opened for us.
Thanks, Natalia. And as you saw in the video, Mike Psaros, who named the center with a transformational gift, who was very generous, right, provides us with the financial resources to if need be, to just do support financially in some of these events that need to occur or that are valuable in occurring. And so it's not just, networking or contacts or, as Will pointed out, the center does white papers as well. But Juan Carlos, the other thing I wanted to point out is, as part of that gift, we actually have, for the first time, hired what we call student associates in the center, and those student associates are now playing a big role in what are some of the new initiatives that the center should do. The only reason I mention is because you said, what about the events such as equity analysts and portfolio managers? Some of the things we've been hearing about from students is fintech. And so we've been working now with, there's a fintech club, and we're having conversations to see if we can't have the next Step Up series, which would be, again, a series of practitioner events, be centered around fintech. And so what I really am just trying to say is I think that there is a role, it's definitely a role for students who are interested in trying to help shape the co-curricular activities, and the center is trying to be an enabler of that. And then it's not just the Psaros Center, right? I mean, I think if you look at a lot of the centers and the groups within MSB and Georgetown more generally, that is available, and I think that's really really valuable. In terms of, you talked about you guys had talked a little bit about preparation. You talked about the co-curricular side. I would be certainly remiss as a faculty member, one who teaches both core finance and evaluation class, if I didn't ask you guys all about curriculum and perhaps at the danger of doing this, but I'm going to go thoughts on the curriculum and how it, along with your kind of co-curricular activities, have helped you for your career path. And obviously, I mean, the network you've all talked about, right? I mean, that's certainly, networking is a major part. But if you can give some thoughts about sort of the MSB experience, whether it is, you guys have Global coming up, you have, Natalia, I imagine you were thinking about SGI when you were talking about sort of hitting the ground running. So if you guys wanted to talk a little bit about sort of the curricular side and how it's helped shape what hopefully will be, your next career. I'll open it to any of you guys. Actually, I don't know who wants to jump at this first.
I'll jump in here.
Yeah.
And Professor, of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't say I enjoyed valuation and the core finance classes, but I am going to have to put a plug in for accounting. And And accounting always gets a bad rap as, kind of the most boring corner of finance curriculum. But if you're going to be an investment banker, or you're going to be an equity analyst, or really anything in buy sell side finance, you have to know where things are on financial statements. And the accounting classes here do that. And it's very easy to understand. The professor is extremely knowledgeable. The way the concepts are presented make intuitive sense. And this is going to be directly applicable, not just to the jobs that you might have, but to the interviews that you're going to have, especially for investment banking interviews. So I can't stress enough the importance of taking an accounting class, especially if you're less familiar with reading financial statements. And at the same time, from a qualitative perspective, the value of public speaking opportunities should not be overlooked. MSB offers several classes to hone communication and negotiation with others and in front of an audience. So for probably everybody here in any MBA program, this is going to be a huge part of your future jobs and therefore instrumental in your career advancement. If you can't speak effectively to a range and a group of people and convey messages clearly and succinctly, then you're going to be hampered in your future career. And I think MSB has done a good job of easing people into becoming more comfortable doing public speaking.
Yeah.
Case in point here. Jack.
Yeah, completely agree with Will here. One of the main things that I was planning on improving on was my personal skills when I came to the program. So MSB definitely has these classes which you can take. One of the class I would like to talk about is leadership communication. So each week in that class, you pick a topic and give a presentation in front of your group. And the culmination of that course is there's a competition called Executive Challenge. So McDonough invites the alums who are actually working as board members or who are in very senior positions in their own firms, and they come to the school and they act as panelists, as board members, and you are a member of a management team. You're acting as a CEO or CFO, and you're defending your decisions in front of them. So there can be like nothing more sort of helpful in order to improve your leadership communication skills. And there are other courses such as defending the bottom line, which I'm taking right now, which is more related to the defending or dealing with the PR disaster of a firm, which again improves your communication skills and interpersonal skills. And apart from that, there are technical courses, of course, which are really important, like Will was talking about, corporate finance, valuation, which is taught by Professor Pinkowitz. So valuation is the most important course probably that you should take if you're planning to go into finance, investment banking, equity research, or asset management, whatever it is. So yeah, there are definitely resources available to hone your skills, irrespective of what industry you're trying to go into.
Dan, one of the things our Flex students often talk about is, being able to use sort of the stuff that you're learning in the courses immediately because you're still working. Any insights or thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. So, right now I mentioned I work in sort of a stress testing function, more so on the optimization of the capital that's left over after our stress tests. And I'm in a class called Financial Markets and Institutional Regulation. And I'm writing a paper about exactly that, the evolution of stress testing as a regulatory initiative to now being a business as usual practice. And this is something that not only I'm going to submit as my final exam, but my direct line manager at UBS wants me to present to my managing director thereafter. So you can easily blend what you're learning in the classroom to school and vice versa. Will tell you that I'm on morning calls with our trade desks every morning, and I'm sure to relay some helpful tidbits about the macro economy, flows, and all that kind of information to the club if it's useful for us when considering what kind of positions we want to take or get out of in the graduate investment fund. So it's been hugely valuable in both directions, and I highly encourage you to think about the cross applicability as you're sitting in your class. I think that's what's been super helpful for me, and it's enriched the learning experience.
Thanks, Dan. Natalia, and anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think for some of the people on the call who might not be coming from specifically like finance background, the coursework is rigorous enough on the core concepts, I think, to get you up to speed. So it kind of levels the playing field a little bit. I think you'll have to do a little bit extra work to get to where you want to be, but the coursework definitely puts you in a position where you feel comfortable on these types of concepts, like going into the business world in case you come from completely different backgrounds. Also, just the experience of like balancing competing priorities, like having school on top of career things and social things and club things, like being able to manage your time is really important. And another thing that I found like very valuable is the diversity of opinion. Georgetown has like a unique, well, maybe not unique, but it benefits from a diverse student population. So you get that diversity of opinion in your classrooms through like the interactive case formats and things like that. You find that understanding other people's opinions really helps to broaden your own thought processes. So I think that's been hugely beneficial. And for me, I think beyond just like knowing what you want to study, I think it's a great opportunity to dabble into certain courses that you might not have been interested in before or you weren't sure about before, but this is the opportunity to really try to understand some of those different courses and things like that. Like you don't often get that opportunity. And I know people who have done that and now they're completely switching their career path because they were so passionate about that topic based on like a course that they took. So definitely the coursework has been very valuable, I think, in a lot of different ways.
Thank you. And Vijayasakar, and I'm sure I didn't pronounce that appropriately, so I apologize. But your question about involvement with faculty research. So certainly, as we said, the Psaros Center is sort of the convener and a center for faculty research to impact practice, we hope. Now, in terms of student involvement with faculty research, those opportunities are definitely available. I certainly need to be, I guess, completely candid about the fact that as grad students, especially full-time MBA students, you guys are not here that long, right? And so typically faculty prefer working with research assistants who they know they're going to be here more than 18 months or 2 years because there's a training process. That being said, it depends on the skill set you happen to have, right? If you're coming in with a skill set that is complementary to something that my colleagues are doing or something that they need, then absolutely faculty are willing to do that. The center is attempting to forge more of those connections in order to get students involved with research, because the fact is, and Natalia had mentioned sort of cases in the classroom. It's not Harvard case style where every class is that way, but there's a large number of case-based courses, and that's because the real problems in the world, the ones that hopefully the rest of my panelists here you guys will solve over the coming years, and those of you who are attending want to be addressing, they're complex, right? I joke, will tell you, I like one of the first days I tell you, no one ever runs into your office and says, what's the present value of $600 at 4% in 5 years? We need to know by 5. Right? That's, if Excel does it, it's not something they pay you for. And so the problems of the world that are important and need addressed are very unstructured. And that is precisely what research is, right? You're basically trying to find, not only to ask the important questions and then attempt to address those important questions. And so MSB and Georgetown and the Psaros Center absolutely are trying. We would like to facilitate more of an involvement of students in research, because while it's not a class, those skill sets are exactly the types of things that you're going to need to solve unstructured problems, right? So, certainly you can email me or contact me, and we can talk more sort of specifically. Again, as a grad student, it's a little bit difficult just in terms of, as Natalia pointed out, your time tends to be relatively limited, and there's a lot of networking events going on. But if it's something that you are interested in fact, I will tell you, I have to write a letter in the next week for one of my former MBA students who is applying to PhD programs in finance, because this is something that he would like to do. So that opportunity is available. That one is going to be a lot more on you sort of taking the initiative and coming to faculty rather than having it come to you. So I hope that kind of addresses it. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, especially because I do know that well, Dan is actually working full-time, and the rest of you are essentially working full-time as well. So if there are I guess we'll go with it. If there's any other questions, happy to answer these. Yeah, Juan Carlos, certainly we look forward to seeing you when you arrive. I'll give you another minute if you got a question. We're happy to address it. If not, or maybe Catherine, if you wanted to kind of wrap up anything that I failed to do here, I don't see any open questions.
Sure. Well, thank you, Professor Pinkowitz, and all the students on the call today. I just want to plug that we do have the early round 2 deadline coming up tomorrow, December 1st. If you decided to apply in round 1, we do have the decision notification date coming up next week, December 8th. And then our regular round 2 deadline is January 5th. And so I'll just drop into the chat a link to our events if you do choose to join any upcoming events that we have.
While you're doing that, I would like to thank publicly the 4 of, well, Anna as well, but Will, Dan, Natalia, Jack. I know you're really busy. I think for those of you still on the call, the fact that they're here, right, would indicate sort of the level of commitment and appreciation and love for this place. And I think that is something that can't be, you really need to think about, which is the culture of the place you tend to go. And the fact that they're here, I greatly appreciate it. And I know that the people on the call appreciate it. So I just want to thank the 4 of you. I really do appreciate that. Catherine?
Great, thank you everyone. So we'll go ahead and upload this recording to YouTube in the next coming weeks. But thank you again for your time today, and hope everyone has a great week.
Thank you, guys.